Hello again, this is Carol King, the founder of Custom Homebuilders Solutions, also known as CHS, a powerful job costing and accounting program for home builders. In this particular video, we are going to talk about a feature on the job budget worksheet where you can export all of your records from the job budget worksheet out to Excel to either review them or do other things with them that you'd like to do. But additionally, if you export them out to Excel, you can actually update them there and then import them and update your job budget worksheet inside CHS if that's what you'd like to do. Now, as a disclaimer right up front, I'm going to say that I know that new people to CHS might have been using an Excel spreadsheet to do their various budget, and they're tempted to do that and then try to import it. But I think that if you do too much of that, you overlook all of the tools on CHS's job budget worksheet to do great buyer notes, to prepare that great job proposal, to do other notes to yourself, to upload copies of bids to attach to a job budget line, to maybe set up some various items to give some detail behind it, etc. So I actually really encourage you to do all of your work for updating your numbers, etc. right on the budget worksheet inside CHS. We don't want to start accidentally changing stuff too easily from just running around on an Excel spreadsheet and then bringing it in, various kinds of things like that. So I don't strongly encourage doing the importing, but the tool is there if you just want to run through for some reason, maybe change all the quantity percents on something all the way down real fast and then import that, some things like that. If you're just wanting it there to help you update a whole bunch of things real quickly. So let's get started on that. I'm going to use the jobs dashboard and I'm going to select a job. It doesn't have a great big price on it or anything. I'll select this one, Vista View 3812, and I'll open the job budgets worksheet. Now on here, way at the bottom of the menu, you're going to see something called Excel Export or Import. And I'm going to go ahead and click that. And we're going to do Export. Now what I'd like you to notice right at the top is note, if you will be using an Excel worksheet to import from in order to update the job budget, the worksheet must include 5 columns with the exact following titles in the first row of the Excel spreadsheet. And they must look like these that are in bold, otherwise CHS won't be able to read what to import and where to put them. You can have other columns on the Excel worksheet, but the above columns must be included for import to CHS. So it's giving you a list of everything that will be exported to Excel, which is just the job budget lines that you have showing. This 283,708.98 is the total that you can see at the bottom of the worksheet down here for the budget. So if I click to export this to Excel, and I say open with Excel, Microsoft has now taken over and decided how to put this stuff out here. So you're going to need to know some about working with Excel to make this sheet like you'd like to have it. First of all, it does have the 5 columns, but they're way over here because Excel and Microsoft like to make a number column really wide. So if you see the little bar here between the columns, you get a crosshatch there, and if you double click on that bar, it'll size it down for you, which is a lot better. Let's go over here to the quantity column and do the same thing, and now we can see the quantity percent and we can see the unit price. So if you double click on all those, you'll get to where you can see them all in the same spot. The job code is okay, but the subcode is coming in because it is a number field. Excel has decided it wants to make it have commas in it. So I'm going to right click on the column B and I'm going to do Format Cells, and I'm just going to say make them general. And now they just have it like this. And if you like, you could left align it if that looks better to you by using the left align tool up here. See, I've left aligned it. Then it has a subcode title, which is fine. This isn't one of the columns that we mentioned needs to be there. This is just put here for information and exported. If you import, CHS will only pay attention to the job code, the subcode, the quantity percent, and unit price. So it's just 5 columns it's paying attention to. It actually doesn't hurt to have other columns in here if you'd like to add some in and still do an import. Let's look at the unit measure. Now let's go to the quantity and let's make it a comma field so that we have 2 decimal points right here. I like that because sometimes people might make a quantity that is just something like 1.25 or who knows what. Now the quantity percent field is, like it says, supposed to be a percent. So let's click the percent. Now it has not added any decimal. So what I'd like to do is increase it to 2 decimals with this little decimal icon up here. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to see things like plumbing that we split into thirds, and I want to see the 2 decimals about how we did that. So it's much easier to see if you set it to percent and let it have 2 decimals. Now the unit price we could go ahead and make pretty and make it so that it is like a number, and by clicking the $sign up here it got me the 2 decimal fields. So all of this is here, and if you'd like to make another column you can. Let's make this a little wider, and maybe you call it total. Now maybe I'd like to center that, and maybe I'd like to make it bold, something like that. Now to do a formula that works and ties to what CHS does quantity times quantity percent times unit price. But you start formulas with an equal sign, and then I'm going to use my left arrow key, and then I'll go to quantity and I'll put an asterisk, the one above the 8, and you can see that starting to happen over here. And then I'll go back to quantity percent and then put an asterisk, and then I'll go to unit price and I'll press enter. So now what it's done is it's taken 1 times 100% and put a 900 in here. Let's make this be a $sign field. And if you know anything about Excel, you can then take hold of the little handle right over here and start pulling it down to copy that formula into all of your lines on your Excel spreadsheet. Whoops, I'm always moving too fast on these things. Go right down to the last record in your line and let go, and it'll put the formula in here for you and have the right amount. Now if you'd like to check that your total equals your budget, you can do this sum sign right here and press enter, and it summed up everything up the column, and it put a total here, and perhaps I will make that bold. Now what you could do is jump back to your budget worksheet, and let's see if 283,708.98 equals what our Excel spreadsheet has. So we've got a total over here, so if we make any changes in here, this formula will change and the total will change. So I was watching this video after I finished preparing it actually, and I realized that in the quantity column, after we added 2 decimal points, some of them look like they disappeared, the quantities. But notice if I click on this one that looks like it's empty, there's a 4300 up here. What happened is when I resized it at the beginning of the video, it went real small because there were not 2 decimal points. So now if I go ahead and do the crosshatch up here and double click, you will see that there's actually quantities in here. Now I'm going to resume the original video, and you'll notice that you don't see those quantities, but I did want to point out that they were there, and after you told it to do 2 decimal points here on quantity, you should have resized it. Alright, back to the original video. So something I should have said before I started making all of the changes is that when you first get this exported to Excel, you should immediately save it. So if I do File and I do Save, it's going to tell me that it is a read-only. To keep your changes, you'll need to save the workbook with a new name in a different location. So I'll say OK, and it's taking me to where I can do a Save As, and then I'll do my This PC. I'm going to browse. I'm going to go to my C drive, and then I'm going to go down to a folder I have for this builder, and I might type in here. Start everything with the same thing. Vista V38112 budget. Get rid of that Z letter. And I like to put a date on it, and today is October 09. And I put the year first, the month, and the date so I can keep things sorted, but in case I want to identify this real quickly, I like to put a date on it in case I make another worksheet and I can keep them separate. So I'm saving it now. So now it's saved, and you can see that it's saved up here. That should have been done before doing all the work so that every time then you could do File Save when you are ready. The other thing I'd like to do is talk about if we decide to make changes on here, you should not change this column called subcode, which is actually your cost codes, because those absolutely need to match what came from the budget. It's not going to matter if you change this particular subcode title, which is a cost code title, because that was actually just supplied from what the cost code is, and that's not going to import back in. So I want to make it very clear, when I was talking about 5 columns, the 5 columns that are very important that CHS will import is the job code, the subcode, the quantity, quantity percent, and unit price. It will not change the unit measure because it wouldn't be good to change these to ones that are not in your drop down over in CHS because CHS would object. It's just here for information. So subcode, title, unit measure are just here for information. And you wouldn't want to change the job code, of course. So the quantity, quantity percent, and unit price is where you might be making changes when you're working on changes that you want to import to your budget worksheet. So an example I like to use is maybe framing material. We decide to add a contingency percent to that, which I've explained that quantity percent can be used for a contingency percent. So if I put 110 in there and I changed it, that means this for 3110 cost code just changed its total, and that would be imported and change your budget. Also, maybe on the next one down, you might put a quantity percent on that too. Let's just do that one. I mistyped that one. So this is adding in a 10% contingency to make the amount higher than maybe what your bid was. But let's say we just change this unit price right here from $2.75 to $3 for whatever reason. So we know we've made changes on these 3 columns that have to do with materials for framing. And that's all I'm going to change. But like I said, maybe you want everything to have a contingency percent and you don't want to have to open each thing over in CHS. You could put 110% in all of these, except that you want to be careful because you have a quantity percent here of 33 to split this into thirds. So you'd have to add your 10% to each one of those, not put 110 and copy down. Basically, I don't really think you should be doing a lot of stuff in importing. I think you should do it right on the worksheet. But in case you think of reasons that it could be real handy to change a bunch of stuff really quickly, you could do an import. That feature is there, and that's what we're about to do. So first of all, of course, we need to save it. And if we look at our total at the bottom, $294.50, we have changed from our total budget here, and we're expecting if we import to get that $294.50. So if I go here to import, it's warning me that nobody else right at this same time in your company should have CHS open and be doing imports for any job budget at all. The reason for that is that when it does its import, it puts it into a temporary table. First it empties that table, puts it into a temporary table to hold it for a second so that CHS can go through it and validate it and make sure that everything is okay. So you wouldn't want somebody else starting to do an import and then you're doing one, it wipes out theirs. It's hard to explain, but it does need to just be in a temporary table. So this is warning you that you need to do that. So I'm going to say okay, continue, because I know nobody else is in here. And it's telling you about make sure no other users, then use step 1 to upload. Then if the upload is successful, use step 2 to update the budget. So let's do step 1 to upload, and let's navigate to where we saved that, which was on our C drive in our Roberts folder. And I know I started it with an E for export, and here's today's date, so I'll use that one and double click it, and then I'll click upload, and we'll see if we're successful. It says done, and the number of records are 71. If some do not display or none were imported, it could be because they do not have the correct job code on the Excel worksheet, or that the column headings in row 1 of your Excel spreadsheet are not correct, or that a cost code, which is referred to as a subcode over there, a cost code used on the Excel worksheet, it does not exist in your cost codes master, or that your spreadsheet has duplicate cost codes in it, or that the import included some rows on your spreadsheet that will not be used as budget lines, like a row for the summary total, which is okay. It says imported 71, but it's going to ignore that one. So let's close this. You can see that there's a total of all records line here just because CHS is adding them up. So now available is step 2, update budget. And CHS is going to spend time checking these out and making sure they're okay before it updates it. But let's click it. It says warning, use this feature only if you're the only person. And it says if there is a cost code on your budget that is not on your spreadsheet, the cost code line on your budget will not be updated or deleted. This could mean the total budget in CHS may not be the same as the total on your spreadsheet. Is it okay to continue? So let's continue. So it took its time to do a little bit of validating and checking everything, and it's telling me the updates have been done and that this whole window for importing will be closed. The budget worksheet is recalculating itself, and now it says $290, $458.73. And let's check that total again, $290, $458.74. Now this can happen from a tiny little bit of rounding stuff that can happen by the formulas. Excel doing it a little different than we're doing. Hopefully this will be close enough by a penny for you to be okay with your import. So let's take a look back at CHS, and let's take a look at our framing materials. And you can see in here, if you hover over these things, that now it's saying the quantity times the quantity percent of 110 times the unit price of $425. And you can of course drill down. I believe this last one we changed the unit price. You could drill down to see it better, but hovering over there can also show you. So this has 110% times $3 now. But like I said, you want to be careful. You might have a bid that you uploaded and you're suddenly bringing in numbers from an Excel spreadsheet. You could just do things too fast and suddenly update all these numbers to numbers you don't want. So I just really want you to be careful. Be sure of what you're importing before you do it, because this, once it's done, is done, and your records are updated. So to get rid of them or change them, you need to go through them and change them how you like them. So that's how it's done, and hopefully that's something that is helpful to you. All right, have a great day, and thanks for watching.